Much of the planet's oceans lie outside borders, increasingly under threat, while lying beyond the control of national laws. But that could change with the Global High Seas Treaty coming into force tomorrow. CNA's Elakeyaa Selvaraji explains what this means and why it matters.
What exactly are the high seas? Well, these are ocean waters beyond 200 nautical miles from any coast where no single country has jurisdiction, meaning every nation has a right to fish, navigate and conduct scientific research. The United Nations says these waters cover around 64% or roughly 2/3 of the world's oceans. But less than 1% has been protected until now. Environmental scientists warn that without safeguards, the high seas remain vulnerable to threats from overfishing, shipping pressure, and climate change. Risks that imperil migratory species, deep sea ecosystems, and food security. Well, the High Seas Treaty is designed to mitigate those risks. It establishes a legal framework to manage and protect international waters. Under the treaty, countries can now set up marine protected areas, require environmental impact assessments for large-scale projects, and regulate activities such as industrial fishing and seabed exploration. And beyond conservation, the agreement also sets out rules for sharing marine genetic resources, biological materials from the deep ocean that could be used in medicine, biotechnology, and other industries. Crucially, countries will now have to assess the environmental impact of major activities, including deep-sea mining, before giving them the green light. Environmentalists say this helps strike a balance between economic development and biodiversity protection.
Is all about collaboration. So all states who are parties to the treaty will need to work together, which means that they will actually have to keep each other in check, which is why the meetings of the parties to this treaty, the so-called Conference of the Parties, is going to be crucial, because that is where states will come together and where they can talk about if somebody has not been able to control their vessels on the high seas.
Well, the economics are significant. The UN Conference on Trade and Development says global ocean-based trade, including shipping, fisheries, tourism and marine services, reached around $2.2 trillion in 2023. And that includes roughly $1.3 trillion in services, such as maritime transport and tourism, and $900 billion in ocean-related goods. That accounted for about 7% of world trade. But there's a growing cost to inaction. The UN estimates about 1/3 of global fish stocks are already overexploited, threatening food security and livelihoods, especially for coastal and developing nations. Some argue that stronger regulation may raise short-term costs, but ensures long-term economic sustainability. The countries most impacted by the treaty are those with long, large, distant water fishing fleets. These include China, which operates the world's biggest fleet, as well as Japan and Russia. Their vessels fish thousands of kilometers from home, often in international waters, which will now be covered by the treaty. Under the new rules, they may face stricter monitoring, reporting requirements, and limits on where and how they fish.
The treaty was negotiated between ministries of foreign affairs. They have a lot more skin in the game here in ensuring that the treaty works. And so internally, in countries where perhaps there is less control over the activities on the high seas, that needs to start to happen. And I'm sure that in an international context, governments do not want to be seen as breaking the international rules. So it's a question of bringing these issues up to a higher political level, at a level which is maybe more important to the leadership of the country than the level of fisheries is in most countries.
Well, the High Seas Treaty is about more than conservation. It's a test of whether nations can work together to protect shared resources at a time when climate change and competition are pushing the planet's systems to their limits. And it positions the agreement as a key pillar of the global 30 by 30 target, an effort to protect 30% of the world's land and oceans by 2030. And what happens next will determine whether this landmark deal becomes a turning point or a missed opportunity.